Thank you all for moving this forward so expeditiously. This is wonderful. It's an immense pleasure to introduce our Irish contingent for this work, and I'm going to ask our spirited colleague, Father Bill Cleary, to introduce them, who knows their work so well. Bill?
So enjoy your lunch, and you'll be enjoying your lunch listening to some fine Irish accents. The Irish have certainly come to Duquesne, and it's my pleasure, as Dr. McGill said, to introduce them. And so we welcome Ronan Barry, Faith and Mission Officer of the Spirit and Education Trust Ireland, Mr. Tim Kelleher, Principal of St. Michael's Spiritan College, Dublin, Oliver Doolan, Chaplain and Teacher at St. Michael's, and fifth-year students there, Conor Crowley, Mark Atkinson, Roy Haynes, Ronan McCardle and James Berry. The fifth Integrity of Creation Conference breaks new ground with a lunchtime session giving the floor to 5, 16, I think one is 17-year-old, maybe two, students representing 9 Spiritan schools in Ireland. The scene will be set by the elders. Ronan will give an overview, Oliver will prepare the stage, and the wrap-up remarks will be spoken by Tim. But it is our young students, Conor, Mark, Roy, Ronan and James, who provide the core of this session, entitled Spirit and Global Citizenship, Preparing for the New Challenges in Our Interconnected World. I think you were in the air on Monday, coming from Ireland here, when another 16-year-old, a Swedish climate activist, Greta Thunberg, was addressing the UN Climate Summit in New York. In a passionate address, she called the older generation, politicians and diplomats in the room, she called them to task. She said, "People are suffering, people are dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth." It is clear from your involvement in the project you're presenting here to us today that you are passionate about the future of planet Earth. An inspiring slogan for all those working to make our planet healthy is to think globally and act locally. We look forward to hearing the action taken locally by you in your school in Dublin, Ireland, the Emerald Isle, as you play your part in making our common home, planet Earth, fit for life, not only for this generation, but for the generations to come. You are very, very welcome. Céad míle fáilte.
As young men and women going out into the world, someone made the point that true leaders of tomorrow, we know that. But what you have to do is, you have to look at that society, you know what's wrong, and say, I can do something about this. I'm not going to tolerate our planet, our world, our people, our world being in any way undermined by bad practice.
The Spirit and School Network, students, teachers,
and youth in the community
will work towards sustainability in their schools, both locally and globally,
through their actions.
So thank you very much for your kind words, Father Billy, and also thank you to Dr. McGill and Glory Smith for their kind welcome to Duquesne and the way they have looked after us since we arrived on Monday night. Nothing but exceptional. Thank you very much. At the start of this presentation, I'd like to remember a friend of Irish Spirit and Education, Father John Kilcran, who has died recently. Father John initiated this conversation about us coming to Duquesne for this conference about 2 years ago, probably now, with Dr. Jerry. And I suppose we're just happy to be here as a legacy to Father John's contribution to the Integrity of Creation Conference here in Duquesne. And we hope that we'll do him some justice, because he certainly was a champion of justice, peace and integrity of creation. We are a community of schools. Here on our right you will see the various crests and logos of our schools. We have 10 schools altogether, 7 secondary and 3 primary. And through this schools we are coordinated through a school trust, gathered in a particular bond of friendship and spirituality and engagement. Our schools are linked very much through their history of mission and education. Our understanding of mission really has been at the heart of all our initiatives and engagements over time. But like all understandings, time and responding to our world today, the understanding of mission has changed. For a lot of our Irish missionaries, it was about going overseas and engaging with people overseas where the needs was greatest. I suppose now we look at our education as crossing frontiers. And it is through this lens that we looked at our schools and the programs through our schools and asked many questions. We first of all articulated 7 core values that we have from our schools: openness to the spirit, a sense of community, opting for the poor, commitment to service, global vision, high educational standards and personal and faith development. From this lens and focusing in on 3 of those values, we asked, is there new ways that we need to respond to society both locally and globally? And in doing so, we've come to an understanding of our global citizenship education program, which starts in our schools at primary level or elementary level and works its way through to secondary. We dialogue, we engage through our teachers, our principals, our boards of management, our students. It is a program of giving ownership and offering a sense of engagement and response in society. It's not an add-on. It is an integrated cross-curricular program. And I suppose in preparing for today, we asked, what is the best way to present this? And really the best way to present is to allow the voice of students, give leadership, as much leadership has been given by young people on this program. So the network of teachers came together last May after meeting of 5 times through the year through a showcase program, and has asked that the St. Michael's group would represent their experience of the program in their schools. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Oliver Doolin, the chaplain and RE teacher in the school, who has chaired this program across the network for our times.
Thank you very much, Ronan, for those words. My name is Oliver Doolan. I'm a teacher in St. Michael's College in Dublin. And on behalf of myself and my students here, I would like to say how delighted we all are to be here today, to be part of the conference on creation, and to share with you some of the initiatives we have been engaged in back home. I've been a teacher for almost 20 years in St. Michael's College, and in that time I can see the movement that has occurred in our school towards becoming a community that is more conscious and caring for the needs of the environment. Some of this movement will be reflected in the stories these lads have to tell you this afternoon. From what they have to say, I hope you will see that their energy and enthusiasm and their genuine engagement with these issues is a story that is encouraging for the future. The renowned Irish poet Seamus Heaney once said, "If you have the words, there's always a chance that you'll find the way." Last year, these lads were in their 4th year in high school, otherwise known as TY or transition year, which is a compulsory year for all our students to take. It is somewhat similar to a gap year, where less emphasis is placed on the academics. However, the year is still largely spent in classrooms on school grounds, with work placements and community service weeks dotted throughout the year. The idea behind transition year is for the students who are around 15 and 16 years old to become more prepared for their role as autonomous, participative and responsible members of society. It is a rather big ask, you might say. However, transition year is a special year in our high school as it encourages students to stay curious, to work with others, to discover who they are becoming, and committing themselves to work without teachers and adults constantly over them dictating their next move. This transition year requires maturity and grit. I hope you can also recognise that in these lads here today. For many years, I've been involved with working with transition year students in St. Michael's College. As you may know, St. Michael's College is a Spiritan school which was established back in 1944 by the Irish Spiritans. It is a school where the idea of Christian mission is very important. Over recent years, we have understood and realised this mission in transition year through what we have called an immersion programme. This programme attempts to reach out to others, to forge new relationships, often in very different parts of the world. Our recent immersion trip has been to Sao Paulo in Brazil, where we've attempted to immerse ourselves through interactions with our hosts by building thousands of eco-bricks. Eco-bricks basically are eco by the fact that they have less cement in them, in their makeup. Through fundraising efforts, participating in liturgical services, by visiting projects run by the Spiritan Order, and as much as possible, becoming embedded within the local community we visit. I've been very fortunate to have travelled 27 times to other countries with hundreds of students from St. Michael's College, mostly visiting Irish missionaries abroad. Our school has travelled to Brazil, to Ghana, to Kenya, China, Malaysia, Vietnam, Argentina, India, South Africa, as well as many parts of Europe, and now here to you in Pittsburgh in the United States today. However, with this growing awareness and concern for the health of our planet and the increased negative impact our movements can have on the fragile ecosystem, we also are keenly aware and conscious and critical of this model of mission. As a result, we are continuously looking for other ways of carrying out the vision of the Founding Fathers and the Spiritan core educational values. Part of the story of these students here this afternoon embraces the learning we have gained through the travels, but also shows a move away from the need of global travel to focus more on mission on a local level at home. What could we do within the environs of our own school community that could be worthy to live up to the Spiritan and Gospel values? For a number of years, we have been working with Ronan and the Spirit and Education Trust in Ireland under the heading of development education, often with the focus of our foreign immersion trips. But this year we decided to keep our development education projects solely focused on small achievable changes within our school, which could potentially have larger positive impact on the wider school community. Our school is what is called a green school back home in Ireland. Green Schools is Ireland's leading environmental management and awareness programme. It builds on the concepts of working together for a sustainable future. We have a Green Schools committee that meet each week, and this is made up of teachers and around 20 students of all ages as well as parents. There are a number of awards that we can work for, and we already have awards in litter and waste, conservation of water, conservation of electricity, on responsible travel, and we are currently working towards our 5th award, which is biodiversity. Inspired also by the UN Global Goals for Sustainable Development, my students are going to tell you about the projects they get involved in, ranging from these themes of water, electricity, waste management, as well as the exciting project of beekeeping in our school to address our concern for biodiversity. Our school also has achieved a diplomatic passport in global citizenship education from an accredited Irish organisation called Worldwise Global Schools. This is an EU-recognised quality mark which offers schools a framework to integrate global citizenship education into their teaching and learning. There are 6 categories upon which schools are rated: curriculum, extracurricular activities, teacher capacity and engagement, student capacity and engagement, school leadership and policies, and community engagement. To this end, we have classes in transition year dedicated each week to sustainability, where students are given the opportunity to consider and explore questions relating to this effort. This is important as we believe the classes give the students the skills and the language and confidence to be agents of positive change. I believe it is going to take all people in the school community working together to achieve these results. Pope Francis last week, speaking of an African proverb, "It takes a whole village to educate a child," noted today in many parts of the world, we have to create such a village before we can educate. Therefore, we need to have all members of the school community, students, teachers, management and parents, buying into this vision of an alternative sustainable future for the positive transformation to occur. It takes everyone working together. With this in mind, I am proud to say our own school principal, Mr. Tim Kelleher, is here today, which demonstrates his commitment. The projects these lads will tell you about required just that. Some of the events they did were within their own ability to carry out, but other events required them to sell their idea and to convince others of their value. Again, I'm reminded of the opening Seamus Heaney quote, "If you have the words, there's always a way that you can find the way." Nature is God's first cathedral. We have an ethical mandate based on the gospel texts to protect it. In our role as Christian school, we have to stand up and position ourselves on the side of God's creation. The themes of our project attempt to reflect these values and highlights the transformative powers that working with nature can have. Some of the details the lads will describe appear unlikely solutions, but often these are the very ones that symbolically speak to the hearts of people. Recently, we have seen the powerful words and actions of Greta Thunberg. She has highlighted the rights all children have to the inheritance of nature and creation. But it is up to people to safeguard this inheritance for the future. Dostoevsky said that beauty will save the world. What better way of adding more beauty to this world than by cherishing nature? Before my first student, Conor Crowley, addresses you, I would like to show you a video. In our school, as Ronan described, we have both junior and senior levels. So this is a small video done by the junior level in our school, which deals with sustainability. So many thanks for your attention.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Conor Crowley, and I'm a 17-year-old student attending St. Michael's College, Dublin, Ireland. I would like to first of all thank you for the very warm welcome on behalf of myself, my fellow classmates and teachers. As a student, I've had the privilege to attend St. Michael's for a very enjoyable 12 years, and I've spent all my life on the same school campus. I can tell you from a student perspective of attending St. Michael's that I personally feel the best times of my life have been spent in school. Whether it's on the rugby pitch, enjoying time with friends, or achieving in the classroom, I've always felt very motivated by my teachers and classmates in school, and we are part of a community that is always looking out for one another in and out of the classroom. I personally come from a great tradition in St. Michael's, dating back to 1944, when my grandfather attended the first academic year. With my father also attending St. Michael's, I feel that it is my responsibility to continue tradition and uphold spirit and values, while also adapting and modernising towards the new challenges we face in society today. My grandfather and my father's generation were uneducated to the fact that climate change is very real and is very much so on the horizon. Now that we have our say in our future, I feel everybody needs to take a step and face the massive challenge ahead. As Anne Frank once said, "How wonderful is it that nobody need wait a single second before changing the world." Right now is the time to change the world and stand up and battle for our planet before it's too late. This quote really stuck to me during my time carrying out sustainability projects last year. Before beginning my journey, a person that really inspired me greatly was Greta Thunberg, a 16-year-old environmental activist. At a young age, she stood up to powerful politicians and held them accountable for their lack of action to tackle the climate crisis. Although Greta was born with Asperger's syndrome, she believes her autism is not to be called as something negative, but as she quoted, more of a superpower which helps her to speak her mind and have a strong sense of social justice. Greta began the school climate strike movement, which my whole school attended last Friday. I am very grateful that my school has taken the action to allow us to have our say and strike for what really matters. The UN is also hosting a global climate summit here in the US, which will bring young people together to help impact on our future. Summits like these are the deciders of our future. I am very passionate about my school, and I've always held my spirit and values close. But if we do not take action, the next generation in my country and yours will be holding us accountable for not saving the world while there was still time. If we continue the way we are going, there may not be a Duquesne University or a St. Michael's in generations to come. Gurv Míle Mágat. Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, I would like to thank you for taking the time to listen about our project today. My name is Ronan. I'm 16 years old and I have been attending St. Michael's College since I was 4 years of age. Currently, I'm in 5th year. Last year was transition year, which is a non-academic year in Ireland in which we invest our time in new experiences and trying to figure out what we would like to study in college. I decided to take on this project as I really felt I can make a difference in our school. So I asked myself, how can we make a difference in our school? Well, waste management, in terms of separating general waste from recyclable waste, has been given a lot of attention in our school over the years. However, we carried out a study and discovered that students were not adhering to the system as best as they could. So we decided that we could improve it. There are over 100 bins in our school, 50 for recycling and 50 for general waste. We worked on developing new colourful stickers that we could put on the bins to refresh and clearly mark which bin was for what rubbish. This This, we found, was a simple action but had a huge positive impact in our school. We discovered that students became more aware and demonstrated more care when discarding their rubbish. While carrying out this project, we also discovered that there were no compost bins in our school for compostable materials such as discarded fruit and vegetables. So, we decided to purchase and install composters in our school garden. The compost bin only costs $50 and we take turns to collect and deposit compostable waste into them. We also bought tiger worms on the internet and introduced them to our composter to help with the breakdown of the organic waste. We now use the soil, and we now have an active and healthy system, and we use the soil to improve the biodiversity of our school. We also wanted to experiment around the school by installing beneficial facilities such as energy-saving light bulbs and a waterless urinal. We have a classroom dedicated to sustainability lessons. However, this room used traditional light bulbs that cost a lot of money to run. We appealed to the management in our school to look at this, and we requested that energy-saving bulbs will be more cost-effective and healthier for the environment. We felt our school listened to us, and we were allowed to have our sustainability classroom converted to energy-saving light bulbs, and this has been a huge success as they consume up to 90% less power than traditional bulbs. Therefore, power costs have decreased. In the future, we hope all our classrooms will be converted over to energy-saving lights. One of the more challenging aspects of our project was installing the first ever waterless urinal in our school. This was another major project that required approval and funding. We calculated the amount of water a waterless urinal saved in each year, and it was, to our surprise, over 200,000 litres of water a year. This is enough water to run an average household for 571 days. Once again, we presented our idea to the management team, and they listened to us and approved it. Once we got the go-ahead, we did our research and acquired a unit and had it installed. We put a sign over the toilet clearly stating the benefit this waterless urinal is having. This project was a soaring success and captured the attention of our fellow students. We hope to change all urinals in our school to waterless in the near future. To fund our project, we then decided to install a water harvester. This is a large barrel used for collecting and storing water. It collects the rainwater from the roof of the school. This water harvester can hold up to 800 litres of rainwater. We then use this water to water our plants, and we also started a car wash. We then put the money we generated from the car wash back into future projects. By doing this, small changes around the school, like introducing a waterless urinal, harvesting water in water tanks, changing lights to energy saving, and even putting stickers on bins make a huge difference in the school and have a massive impact. Thank you for listening.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mark Atkinson. I'm 17 years old and I'm a student in St Michael's College, Dublin. I am currently in 5th year, which is the same as the 12th grade over here in the US. I am here today to tell you about how I got involved in this project. I got involved in this project when I was in transition year, which is similar to a gap year over here. I was approached by my teacher, Mr. Doolan, after one of our sustainability lessons, and he asked me if I would be interested in getting involved on his climate change project. I was very interested, as it is very clear from our classes that we need to immediately start making a difference. Ice is melting worldwide, especially at the Earth's poles. This includes mountain glaciers, ice sheets covering West Antarctica, Greenland, and the Arctic sea ice. In Montana's Glacier National Park, the number of glaciers has declined to fewer than 30 from more than 150 in 1910. Much of this melting ice contributes to the sea level rise. Global sea levels are rising 0.13 inches, which is 3.2 millimeters a year, and the rise is occurring at a faster rate in recent years. It is clear that we had to start acting fast. We first started to make changes by focusing on biodiversity in our school. Biodiversity boosts ecosystem productivity, where each species, no matter how small, all have an important role to play. For example, a large number of plant species means a greater variety of crops. Greater diversity ensures natural sustainability for all life forms. To improve the biodiversity of our school, we planted 4,500 shrubs across the school's campus. Along with this initiative, we introduced 2 beehives into our school, this time 2 years ago. We now have increased this to 4 beehives, and we should produce over 200 jars of honey a season. These beehives solely looked after by teachers and students in our Green Schools Committee. We have brought some of this honey with us today for you to sample afterwards if you would like. Bees are an excellent example for the symbiotic relationship necessary for the health of our planet. For as much as we need bees for pollination of our crops, bees need us for their own survival. This has been an innovative and highly effective way of engaging the full student body in our school with biodiversity. From the outset, many students were concerned about the potential of getting stung by the bees, but in reality, they had nothing to worry about. This has increased the knowledge and understanding of the bees. In April, we went to a Spiriton school in County Tipperary, about 50 miles outside of Dublin, called Rockwell College. The reason we went down to Rockwell was to go and present our project. We started our presentation with a video that you just saw to show the other Spiriton schools who were there with us. We were not the only Spiriton school in Rockwell that day. We got to see projects of these other schools as well when we were down there. Throughout the day, we got to mix with the other schools, and we did team building exercises with them. It was an incredible experience to work with the people as passionate as us about saving the environment. I would like to say thank you to everyone for listening to me this afternoon.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Roy Haynes. I'm going to be addressing you today on why I got involved in this project. Our project started off by us getting a small group of students together and realizing we have an ecological crisis on our hands. Not only in Ireland and America, but worldwide. I'm honored to be here today to have this opportunity to talk to you about our project we worked on as a team to try and get sustainable cities and environments moving in our college and at home. Sustainable cities and environments is number 11 on the UN Sustainable Global Goals. And this team guided us to work we did back home in Ireland. We started off by deciding to look into how we can make our school and college grounds more environmentally friendly. I got involved because, let's face it, we are being confronted by a huge ecological crisis. We need to do something about it. We as humans are the only people who can change this. Picture this. You were in a forest alone and a tiger is creeping up on you, about to attack you. You would not be able to fight against the tiger alone, but if everyone came together, we would find a solution to overcome this situation. Imagine the tiger as climate change. This is how climate change can creep up on you so quick and how threatening it can be. We as stewards of this planet need to work together and do our small bit to fight climate change and overcome it. It is the only planet we have, and the only opportunity available to us is to fix it now. Our existence on this earth is in danger if we don't change now and fight as a global community and overcome climate change. I feel as a world of 7.53 billion people, if we all do something small, this can make a big difference. For example, as the first step to fighting climate change, we need to educate ourselves on what is happening and maybe do one small thing. This could be, for example, get a green bin or a compost bin in your home or school classroom or your office and start recycling recyclable materials. I decided, as well as the other members of my team, to come together and do one little thing for our school. I think everyone can agree we are living in a huge crisis. Can we agree?
I am reminded that the Buddha once said, "A walk of 1,000 miles begins with just one step. If you do decide to take this first step, who knows where it can lead us?" The amount of plastic America uses every day adds up to the weight of the Empire State Building. Global temperatures worldwide have increased by 1 degree Celsius in the past century. Can you imagine the impact this is having throughout the world? I'm sure people in the audience are aware as we speak right now, sea ice and glaciers are melting. Before the end of this century, it is estimated the sea level will increase by 0.5 meters to 1.5 meters. Climate change will increase rainfall, changing seasons, shrinking sea ice, and rising sea levels. As a Puritan school, a Christian school, we have an ethical mandate to help stop climate change and do our part as Christian believers to stop climate change as soon as possible. This makes me feel like every single person in this audience and worldwide needs to step up and fight it together. We have an Irish phrase at home. It's an Irish phrase, it's a Shan Fuckle. Back home that says, Ní neart go cur le céile. Everyone worldwide needs to pull together and fight climate change, or climate change will continue to fight us and wipe us out as human beings and God's creatures and destroy our entire planet too. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Berry. I'm also a fifth-year student in St. Michael's College. I'm very happy to be here today. I got involved in the project when our teacher, Mr. Doolan, told me about it and the type of things we were trying to do and change. At the beginning, I did not really know the magnitude of the things Mr. Doolan was talking about, but throughout the project, I learned things about the world's climate change crisis, and it was at this point that the other boys and I really got passionate about it. Some facts we learned while on this project were, by 2050, there will be more plastic in the oceans than fish. Global temperatures have increased by 1 degree Celsius in the last century, and Arctic sea ice and glaciers are melting at a devastating rate. After hearing some of these facts, it was a big wake-up call for us, and we started putting in a lot more time, work, and effort into this project. We're very proud of what we accomplished, and it could never have been done by a lone person or even 3 people. We all played our part, and I think that's what made doing the project more rewarding. A good example of how important teamwork is, so I've got a couple of pencils here. We see how easy it is to break one, but if we have a bunch of them, they're a lot more difficult to break. They can't be broken. I feel like this was well in relation to our situation. If only a few people get involved, the same ideas don't come to light, and it doesn't make the difference I believe we can make if we all do something to help. To anyone unsure whether or not they should get involved in something like this, I'd strongly encourage you to take part. Something I learned throughout this sustainability project is that teamwork is key. I understood the difference in value that being part of a team brings as opposed to doing it alone, in both aspects of getting things done and a fun point of view. I think the topic we were working on is very interesting, and it was great to do something to help. I had good fun doing this project, and I'm sure a few of you would too. And who knows, maybe if everyone did something to fight climate change, we could solve some, not all, but a couple of the problems currently happening on our planet today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to finish off with the students' presentation, we just have a small video that we put together last year that kind of just, I suppose in some ways summarises just all the activities the lads got involved in. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. And now we'll have a word from the Principal, Tim Kelleher, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Principal always gets the final word. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the videos and the input from the boys. I'd particularly like to thank Laurie Smith and Dr. Jury for the invitation to speak to you, and a particular gratitude to the boys from Central Catholic High School who are with us today. There are men sitting in this room that are very instrumental in, I suppose, how our school and many schools on our Ireland operate, and they're the Spiritan community. We've been privileged to be their guests over the last couple of evenings, and I have a secret that I'd like to share with you. Their youthful good looks, their good health was revealed to us last night in fantastic conversation, good humour, and the best selection of Irish and Scottish whiskies you'll ever see this side of the Mississippi. So a real mark of gratitude to all of the men for your kindness and hospitality to us all. St Michael's College is a student body of 1,000 boys. Our teaching faculty, roughly about 90 teachers spread throughout the campus. It's a Catholic school in the Spiritan tradition. We also have 22 Duquesne students living on campus as part of the global outreach program from this university. In the student centre on campus last night, we were passing by the door and I saw St Michael's College. There's a massive cutout of our college actually inside the door, urging students to come to Dublin. It's a refreshing look at a college when you see predominantly 20 girls walking through the campus of 1,000 boys. For some reason, the boys from Duquesne don't come, but the girls certainly enliven prestige and calm the testosterone that's running around the college. So thank you for that, Duquesne. We're situated about 200 metres from Dublin Bay with a beautiful backdrop of the Dublin Mountains behind us. Conor spoke earlier about his granddad attending St Michael's, and there's an incredible family tradition of boys and families coming through our college. Interesting, earlier on, Dr. Mayo spoke about the colour and I suppose the impact that global warming has, particularly along racial lines. We now know that probably by the end of this century, Conor's grandchildren, if they're attending St Michael's, will probably have to do so on a boat. Because if the sea rises around Dublin by that metre and a half that's been predicted, we won't be worried about where we're putting our new bicycle tracks and walking tracks. We'll be worried about where the harbour is going to be to bring our students to our door. The Spiritans are a missionary order. There are about 650 second-level schools in Ireland, usually predominantly over the last century founded by congregations of Catholic religious orders predominantly. Very many of them were founded and established for effectively to educate the poor at the time. The Spiritans were quite different. When I arrived on campus in 2004, having been a principal in a Catholic school within the state sector, I found quite a different order, an order that were passionate about mission, passionate about looking beyond the shores of Ireland and serving the poor worldwide. And that was the fundamental difference between many of the teaching orders that exist not just in Ireland but around the world and the Spiritans themselves. Our key point of difference, it seemed to me then, that the whole concept of mission was something that had to be cherished and part of the heritage and the story of the Spiritans. When we came to defining our characteristic spirit within our school, we figured that mission had to be at the centre of the message. We've got great people on staff, and one of them was our chaplain, Mr. Doolan, when he came to me one day and he said, why not go and bring our students and let them experience mission, let them see it and let them come back and tell the story of mission. The Spiritans, because of their age profile, were leaving us. They were retiring, they were returning home, and many of the areas around the world that they worked in were now being taken over by NGOs and by state agencies. And we figured a national treasure and the characteristic of our spirit and our school and what we do within the network would have been lost if the story of our missionaries was lost. So we resolved to get involved, and we got an invitation from Kenya in 2006 to actually go and visit. We had two guiding principles with regard to establishing an immersion program. One, that we would not put a burden on the people that we were visiting, some of the poorest in the world, so therefore we had to be net contributors to the communities that we visited. The second one was that we did not want to get involved or be accused of third world tourism, bringing affluent young men from the West in a macabre journey to have a look at what's happening in the developing world. And to be fair, it was really successful. About 25 boys went on the first immersion program to Kenya. And to be honest about it, it was a little bit like third world tourism. A lot of oohing and ahhing. We saw churches, schools, projects, clinics. But there were two salient events that occurred and happened during the event that changed my perspective, and I know Mr. Doolan's as well, and certainly impacted on the young men that were with us. Having driven up through the Rift Valley in Kenya and arriving in an area called East Pokot, we got out of a Toyota Land Cruiser Jeep and stood on the back trailer, and we looked out over a valley. And if you can imagine the scene from The Lion King, where Simba is being held up and all the animals are bowing down, it was something similar to that, except there were no animals, there were no plants, there was desolation as far as the eye could see. Red clay dust as far as you could see. The priest standing beside us, Father Sean McGovern, had spent 40 years on mission in Kenya. He said, 30 years ago when I came here first, I tended to the people of the Pokot. They followed their cattle, they hunted, and they were a pastoral people, a magnificent people, and this land served them well. This is what global warming does. It was like a slap in the face to us supposedly sophisticated Westerners when we realized that the way we were living had destroyed thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of land that people had subsistently farmed on for generations and generations. To see the desolation of the land and the lack of the rain that used to come, it was an epiphany for many of us that we brought back with us. The second event was the silence that we came across when 25 of our boys went into the Nakuru slums and had an hour walk around looking at people who were surviving on absolutely nothing. People who had left that landscape for work in the cities, surviving on less than $1 a day and dependent on one hose pipe to serve 2,000-3,000 people. Zero sanitation. A blanket in a shack covering your cooking area from your sleeping area. And the smell that stays with you, you don't get from videos. You don't get from watching stuff online, because it gets into your clothes, and for us, it got into our being. When we talk about desolation and the abandonment of the poor by the West, that was it. You don't need to read it, but you do need to experience it to truly look at what it is that we're facing. And you're right, there is a moral purpose to all of this, because in our school, we said whatever we do, we will not abandon our immersion projects. 31 teachers have travelled, and they cannot but have been impressed with what they've seen in Ghana, in Kenya, in Brazil, and what they do affect their practice in classrooms. And the hope of the future and the hope of counteracting global warming, I think, rests in classrooms. Behavioural psychologists will tell you that we are all influenced by the people around us, our friends, our families, our significant others. For young people, and young people who are angry and marching last week, the significant people in many of their lives are not necessarily their parents, but they are their teachers. And our teachers take on a role worldwide, not because of the helicopters, the fancy cars, and the fat bank accounts they'll get from teaching, but because the moral purpose that drives them and the satisfaction in a job well done and their ability to make the difference. Dr. Gates spoke yesterday about some of the significant people that we need to influence, particularly businessmen, political leaders. He spoke about the fat-tail distribution theory, that we have to wait for quite a long time when you intervene in global warming to see and to make a difference. As a leader of a faith-based school, we cannot but believe that the work that we do in the classrooms will down the road with politicians and with business people, have the impact and the desired impact. And that's the hope that we're craving as leaders in the faith-based school and as teachers in the school, that what we do in class and what we do in projects and what we do in our daily lives will have that positive impact. In Ireland, we've now had a system change in that for 30 years we had a very siloed curriculum product, if you like, at second level. More recently, since 2005, we've introduced a continuum-based assessment based on projects and 8 key skills that children between the age of 12 and 15 must attain. There are 28 statements of learning that students must have attained by the age of 15. 3 or 4 of them are tailor-made for global citizenship. And we see global citizenship education and development education coming in from the cold, being mainstreamed. Our geography, our science teachers, our religion teachers, our English teachers, all have a role to play in educating young people to take action. And they're willing and they're able, and you've seen it from our boys, that they are well able for the action. At our graduation ceremonies and our commencement ceremonies every year, we all urge young people to go out and make a difference. And I think from what we've heard today and what we've seen on the streets last week, we can be pretty confident in the future that if our young people won't make a difference, nobody will. We have great hope in the future, and we particularly hope in our network of Catholic schools, and we'd hope that the pebble that we throw into the lake will have a ripple effect, not just here, but with everybody that we meet. Thank you very much.
Very inspiring words, Tim. Thank you. Well, we now have a luminary of our own, a Duquesne professor of education, who's going to lead us in conversation and let the boy's voice speak loud. Lisa?
Thank you very much, Dr. McGill. I'm Lisa Lopez-Levers, a professor in the School of Education here at Duquesne. Wow, what an incredible presentation. Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us in this important discussion. Earlier today, Dr. Mo, I need to put my glasses on, sorry. Dr. Mo Labeda talked to us a little bit about the great turn in climate justice. I thought that was such an incredible concept, and I think that that concept is really embodied by the youth around the world. Just incredible. A number of people have mentioned Greta Thunberg, the 16-year-old climate activist from Sweden. And if you don't mind, I would like to read just a short quote from her. She just spoke this past week, 16-year-old young woman addressing the United Nations with great power. She said, "This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams, my childhood, with your empty words, and yet I am one of the lucky ones. People are suffering, dying, entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?" I really take her words to heart. I'm actually so inspired by this young woman. My 18-year-old daughter, Koketso, in Botswana, is a climate activist. I'm so inspired by her. I'm so inspired by you young men. I feel so proud of everything that you're doing. I feel so inspired by the youth of the globe. So in that spirit, could we just give these young men one more round of applause for the incredible work that you're offering? Thank you so much. I do have a few questions myself, but I would really like to hear from all of you. So, does anybody have a question for anybody who's here with us from St. Michael's? Yes. Is there a... Here comes a microphone.
Hi. I am an elementary teacher near here, and it was very inspiring to hear all of you talk. My job today was to come and see what I can take back to my elementary school. My question to you is, when you come up with some of these great ideas, do they automatically get passed to all the schools you're partnered with, even the simple thing of the signs? Or is it a recreation in each building? And how do you get the funding for it? I know the signs didn't cost much, but getting the bees or the urinals, do you raise the money? Do you go into the community and ask? Where do the funds come from?
Hi, thank you very much for that. And I suppose on the first part, we are part of a network of schools, and we do meet on a regular basis throughout the year in terms of the teachers in all the different Spiriton schools. It is hosted, and it's looked after by Ronan Barry in a sense that he coordinates with them. So we do share in that forum, and there is a great sharing that's happening throughout the schools on that in that network. In terms of the, I knew this question was going to come in terms of the funding in relation to some of these. Yes, they don't come from free. For example, a waterless urinal does cost a significant amount of money. However, I think what was particularly impressive is the idea came from these students. It came from the research that they did within the classroom, and they put that together in terms of a proposal that was written up and was presented to management that can actually make that level of a decision. It was presented in the sense that there is a cost-effective benefit in terms of each individual unit saving at least 200,000 litres of water a year. So although, again, it's the management buying in, or kind of at least believing in what the lads are trying to present, and seeing that in future that there is a saving, and a saving will occur long term. Again, it's a very similar analogy in terms of climate change, where the actual the crisis point may not necessarily be evident in all parts of the world, but yet it is actually there. And in the same sense that it's a matter of the management and the school being able to see the future benefit in making these, which are in the overall running of the school relatively small for us, but can have future very positive impact. One of the main parts of it is that each of the projects are to be ultimately sustainable. So one of our students was talking in terms of the water harvesting unit that we've installed, and these guys then are actively involved in doing car washes. Like the water comes in as grey water, it gets filtered somewhat through the unit. We then once again have to filter to make sure the water is pure in terms of no grit. But we've been using this water then to wash cars of teachers, of parents. Many of our parents will come into school at the weekend for rugby matches and other extracurricular activities. So we have kind of engineered a situation whereby while they're watching their sons playing football, we can wash their cars. And we're able to generate money that way and put it back into the system. The bees, once you actually had our first 2 bees, we were able to then gather the swarming effect that would happen, and we're able to grow our crop that way, or grow our hives that way. And then we actually sell the honey itself. So we sell the honey, for each jar is €10 at home. So that equates, let's say, $10. And so if you work that out over, I know we quoted 100, but it can be up to 200. We had a bumper season this year, so we actually produce a lot more honey, and we sell that back to the school community. Many of the parents, we actually sell it very quickly. So in terms of that level, the bees then are self-sustaining economically. But again, I think the main point is that the ideas, although they may require an initial input, cash input, they actually have long-term will have cost benefit for the school. So, yeah.
Is there another over here? Oh, here, and then we'll come over there.
Just a related question. I thought I'd give it to our parish school. Do you have any reports or anything that I could provide to our school that would just kind of summarize, what the approach you've taken and the benefits and similar comments.
We can arrange for the PowerPoint to be shared and so on, but also on, if you want to look at the website, spiritandeducation.ie, you'll find contact details for myself there, and we can arrange for something like that to be emailed.
Sorry, could I just maybe address the elementary teacher as well and say, listen, thank you for your question. I suppose as a school principal, you know, a lot of the knocks come on my door, and teachers who've been away and have seen the destruction of other people's environment have been really motivated to take on various projects throughout the school. The fact that it's being mainstreamed by our government now means that it will be funded. Anything that we will do, we expect to get what we call a higher capitation grant to make sure that these projects are seen to fruition. The other issue, I suppose, is that we have one or two very persuasive teachers that when they come to my door, they do actually persuade me that they are going to make a lot of money out of honey. I haven't seen a lot of money coming from it, but hopefully down the road we will break even. So that might answer your question. Thank you.
There's a question over here. Thank you so much to all of you for your presentation. I was interested in hearing from the students if you have thoughts at this point about where you might be led in terms of your own careers now, having done this work, having learned all that you've learned, having created some projects that are successful. How is it motivating you or your choices for the future?
Well, it's a good question. Thanks for the question. It's motivated us to look into careers in business and how to set up companies, sustainability companies maybe, or communities of how we can make around the people around us and our communities we live in better. I know me personally went and looked up college courses in sustainability. The interesting thing is that we have a points system in Ireland. So our final exam is graded in points, and the colleges take you in on points, a points scheme. The points scheme for sustainability courses are dramatically low compared to business courses. The course that sustainability that I looked into to make, I can't remember the name, but it's about the environment. It's around 370 points, whereas business courses, law, 510 points. So there's a huge gap there. So hopefully with our group of guys coming through and the year ahead of us, hopefully people will take that and the points will go up for it. So thanks for the question.
We could have one more of the students replying, please.
Yeah, thanks very much for the question, and I'd just like to speak about what Roy was saying there about college courses. And Roy's a good friend of mine, and he's spoken to me before that after college he'd like to go into a career in potentially politics, and he's spoken to the fact that if he is a politician he would always be emphasising sustainability in the country, and if he's a successful one, obviously going on and adjusting laws to make Ireland a more greener country and a better place, a more sustainable country, and in schools and in businesses and everything. So yeah, thanks very much for the question.
Okay, thank you everybody very much. We are almost out of time. Dr. Lisa, thank you so much for facilitating this, and Father Cleary for your lovely introduction. Now we're going to do something a little photographic before we finish this session. You boys don't go anywhere. You'll be in the photograph in a second. But first could have Ronan and Tim, could you come up, and Father Cleary, and we will all stay on stage. And I think there is somebody missing out the back that we're waiting to arrive. Is Glory there? Aha. Glory, please come up. So we're going to have a group photograph. If you would come up, please. Just come over here onto the stage and come behind the boys. And Glory, could you stand here? very edge. Thank you. And if you could applaud them all for all the efforts they've taken to come join us. Stay where you are, please. Everybody stay where you are. We now have a wonderful addition because we have Central Catholic, the same age group, who have presented these spectacular posters. These are quite silent voices this time. Next time they might be presenting very much like the Irish contingent. But I want you to come forward, young men, and if you could stand along the front here, and we'll have you in this joint photograph. Okay? Please come forward. Yeah, just sit on the stage, that's great. It's a spectacular photograph. Thank you all very much indeed. And as they're leaving the stage, let me call on my theological background. This is a wonderful image that we have taken with the photographs. And remember the great Imago Dei, the image of God. The planet being the image of God is what we're celebrating in our work today. So we're just going to take a few moments breather, just to stretch your legs, and we'll be transitioning to our next session with Aurora. Thanks, boys. It really was spectacular. I'll see you all later today. Thank you so much. And I might say at the end of today's session, over here, there's honey from Ireland. You can have a little sample.